Hello summoners and welcome to the top 5 quick tips for climbing ranked and winning with Ezreal. So Ezreal has received a small visual update and a new reworked W ability on this patch, which means that he's got some new tricks up his sleeve. If you want to know how you stack up to other great new Ezreal players, then check out your GPI today. The Gamer Performance Index tracks your performance for both ranked and normal draft in an easy to see way. You can find out what your strengths and your weaknesses are on specific champions with our champion-based GPI. Sign up today to track your performance and use Mobalytics for the new Ezreal. For tip number 1, let's talk about builds, because Ezreal's build for a while now has been pretty stagnant, but with this new rework that he got, there are some new builds popping up, so let's look into them. Firstly, you've got your standard build, your run-of-the-mill, basic Ezreal build with the Iceborne Gauntlet. This build is great for kiting, and you don't go for that double tier because you want to be able to get that Bork as soon as possible. With just a Mana Immune and just an Iceborne Gauntlet, your damage will be lacking, but because of the cheap nature of the Iceborne Gauntlet and the Mana Immune, that means that you can rush that Bork as fast as possible. The next build we're looking at is the more standard double tier build, which involves buying a Trinity Force as well. This build is great for snowballing because you do need to be ahead in order to purchase these items. They are very expensive, but it's also great for scaling and 1v9ing. This will be your hard carry Ezreal build with a lot of damage and survivability because of the massive Archangel shield. Lastly, let's talk about the new build that has popped up involving a Hextech Gunblade. This build swaps out the Blade of the Ruined King for the Hextech Gunblade, and the Sorc shoes are necessary for lots of damage, but definitely interchangeable for Merc Treads or Ninja Tabi. The massive slow on Gunblade means that your new W will hit much more often. On top of that, you have more AP ratios, or at least your AP ratios are more consistent with your new W. You'll have to give this one a try as it's a little bit untested, and Gunblade was never that bad of an item on Ezreal, but with this build, you can start to see a bit more variance. Next up, let's talk about your new W and how you can use it. In the first build, we did talk about the Iceborne Gauntlet build, however, I think with the new W, you might be better off always going Trinity Force. You definitely miss that lack of attack speed from your old W, giving it to yourself and your teammates on sieges, so having that extra Trinity Force damage and attack speed is very nice, and now that your new W does work on towers, you become a much better sieging and side lane champion. Your W is also much better for burst now and can be used for a quick rotation of damage from your W into your E. Since the damage from Essence Flux will be prioritized from Arcane Shift, it means that you can blow people up even in melee range. And as always with Ezreal, you need to hit your Qs and make sure those Mystic shots are connecting, that way you get more Ws up. For tip number 3, let's talk about some mechanics with Ezreal. Firstly, something important to note is that your Essence Flux now is the same range as your Mystic Shot. And another thing to note is that the Arcane Shift and Essence Flux combo feels really nice to use, and you don't need to delay your Arcane Shift afterwards even if you just shot your Essence Flux. The missile speed is fast enough on your W that if you use Arcane Shift almost immediately afterwards, it'll still connect and give you that damage. And lastly, even though it is a niche mechanic and comes up very few times, if you know that you can use your True Shot Barrage into your flash combo, what this will do is allow you to reposition yourself and dodge a skill shot, but it does not redirect your True Shot Barrage, so it will stay right on target. This means again, you can start channeling your True Shot Barrage, and if a Morgana binding comes right after you, you can flash away and you will still connect your True Shot Barrage. You don't have to worry about the aim being different. For tip number 4 is a super quick tip and one that you should always understand on Ezreal. Be careful about using your E, especially because there's more incentive to use your E now as well. Whatever you do, don't pull the Wild Turtle and constantly E forward because you're gonna get yourself killed. Make sure 100% after you connect your Essence Flux, or if you can find the kill, be very careful of what's gonna happen afterwards because your E is a free flash, but you're also using it forward in some situations, especially with the new kit. Lastly, 3 champions I want to give you that will be good matchups for Ezreal and that you can look to pick him into are Xayah, Kalista, and Blitzcrank. As for Xayah and Kalista, Ezreal outranges them, which means that they will have a hard time approaching him and chasing him down, so he can always maintain that range of around 1150, and now that your W is longer range and the same range as your Q, that 1150 to 1000 range for Ezreal feels much nicer. As for Blitzcrank, I'm sure you've seen it many times before, but Ezreal can arcane shift the pool, meaning it's very hard for him to ever get caught out by Blitzcrank. And the other thing is, because Ezreal is long range and Blitzcranks typically will go for mobility boots, Ezreal can cancel the speed on the Moby boots from far away with just one Q poke or his ultimate, meaning that Blitzcrank's can be much slower and easy to catch and run down. This has been the Mobalytics top 5 quick tips for climbing ranked with Ezreal. Make sure you check out your Ezreal GPI and your GPI on any other champion in the description down below, and sign up and use Mobalytics today.